Victoria, I want to start with you. You are registered as one of the speakers for this motion today. What is your perspective on this?
Yes, I actually support the motion. I think it's a really good idea to look into this right now for a few different reasons. First of all, I see an opportunity to look at Bitcoin as an emerging asset class that is increasing in value, and the city has to manage its treasury. So I think it's worthwhile looking at this. Many large companies, many investment funds are investing in Bitcoin and other types of cryptocurrencies. And the couple of other reasons, I think economic development, blockchain at UBC, which is the cluster that I lead, works with many small to medium-sized enterprises in Vancouver that have the potential to generate jobs and demand for services in Vancouver. So I think there's an economic development aspect to this that can be
Hmm.
explored, and also paying for city services and infrastructure by surprisingly mining Bitcoin, which sounds like it would use up a lot of energy, but there are green efforts afoot in the Bitcoin mining sector, and I think we could definitely look at those and how they might benefit paying for things like heating city pools and other sorts of services. So those are the main reasons that I support this motion.
So some people, Victoria, may be skeptical of Bitcoin. We often hear about the value soaring and then, plunging. What are the advantages?
Well, I would say it is a volatile asset, but volatility doesn't necessarily mean risky. They can correlate, but there's something called the Sharpe ratio, which is a volatility adjusted measurement of risk. And for this asset over a long haul, Bitcoin outperforms other assets like gold and like the S&P 500. So when we talk about a volatile asset, it isn't necessarily risky to hold it. It's actually proven to be quite a solid investment for those who have held it over the long term. So I think there's a lot of sort of misinformation out there potentially, or outdated information. And what the motion that's before council really seeks to do is look at things, look at this as an asset class and the opportunities that Bitcoin could bring for the
Hmm.
city in a rational way, bringing in lots of viewpoints, lots of solid evidence to really look at what this could mean for the city, rather than just relying on what might be outdated or not the full picture.
When Bitcoin started in 2010, it was valued at 9 cents when it was first released. 5 years later, 4 years later, it spiked to about $1,200, and then it dropped down to less than $300. Does that give Jesse? Does that give you pause about the volatility of the currency?
I think, yeah, just carrying on from what Vicky was
Yeah.
saying, it's an asset. So I think it's meant to be held. It's not meant to be a transactional currency, right? I don't think the city should be relying on it to pay for core and essential services.
Right.
But holding it as part of your treasury is an intelligent thing to do right now, because I think what we're seeing is, since this technology emerged through Bitcoin, blockchain emerged to the world through Bitcoin in around 2010, what we saw was that this currency really kind of opened up new ideas around finance, and that's where the innovation is in it. And holding it is kind of like an investment in the future of where finance is going.
Right.
And I think holding on to that currency is valuable over the long term. So as long as we're being prudent about it and making sure that it's a financial investment, it's being thought of up to date, and we're not depending on it for core services for the city, then I'm all for it.
It's interesting. And what about the idea that, a lot of people just simply can't get their minds around Bitcoin. I'm one of them, I have to say. I have been referring to it disparagingly as fake internet money since it first turned up. Again, should anybody invest in anything that can't be explained in a simple sentence?
I think in 2024, the way finance works, yeah, there's a lot of questions there for people who aren't involved in day to day or who don't understand the technological background to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's our job, like Vicky's job at UBC and my job at 221A, which is a public benefit organization, is we've been researching this technology to find where the use cases are. So I hope that the city comes to partners like us to kind of do that engagement that's outlined in the proposal that's going before council.
Vicky, what do you think of people, or the city, I guess, as Jesse just said, I mean, we're not talking about depending on this as an investment. This would be an asset that would be held aside. I am told that a lot of companies are basically, what this amounts to is putting a line in their budget that says Bitcoin holdings. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, it is certainly part of what we're talking about, although the second part of the motion actually looks at, other things like economic development and other opportunities. But sticking with the theme of investment, this would be like any kind of an investment you might hold or, a treasury might hold in its portfolio. And, obviously the city has risk managers and they would look at, what's the risk attached with this particular asset versus other assets? What's the time horizon or the duration for this asset versus, let's say, bonds?
Right.
Many corporations are looking at this, and many organizations are looking at Bitcoin as a hedge against a devaluing dollar, and that's certainly an issue for us in Canada at the moment, considering what's happening with our largest trading partner, also as a hedge against inflation. And so it's not a crazy thing to do for a treasury to think about holding this asset. The proportion that you might want to hold in your portfolio would vary according to your risk profile, just like with any other asset.
Here's a bit of a goofy question. Could increased investment in Bitcoin, more reliance on Bitcoin, actually bring down the value of the dollar?
Well, because I'm not an economist, I can't really give you an answer for that. I'd have to really think about that a little bit more. I haven't heard that line of argument,
I'm just wondering if
but
people lose faith in the regular currency.
I don't think people will lose
Okay.
faith in the regular
Jesse shaking his
currency.
head no.
No.
Yeah, no, I mean, for one thing, it's not a replacement,
Right.
for currency, as Jesse had mentioned. It's not really the primary use case isn't as a payment mechanism. It's more being looked at by these large corporations and by the city itself as an asset to hold in its portfolio. So I don't think you'll see that it will replace currency or devalue our dollar because we hold Bitcoin.
Does this, Jesse, I mean, Vancouver likes the tech business very much. We want to draw more tech companies to the city. Is this something that is related to drawing those tech companies to the city?
I think so, yeah. I mean, already since the announcement of the proposal to
Yeah.
look into this, there's been coverage in major kind of tech newspapers, financial newspapers, and that sort of thing. And that kind of shores up a bit more confidence, right? Like the province has brought Web Summit that's coming here for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
That's a major investment, and they're trying to draw more investment from the tech sector to the city of Vancouver. And I think now at the city level, kind of raising this kind of flag, it's a lightning rod for attention and confidence. And what's happening is like this technology is very tied to Vancouver. Like we developed a lot of this over the years, and the community that built this, the engineers, the builders, the technicians, the thinkers around it, the designers, a lot of them are here. And I think what's happening is we're just recognizing our own history and our own contribution to the history of technology here. And I think it's smart to do so.
Victoria, the downside of this, we talked about, the amount of energy it takes to mine Bitcoin. There are environmental concerns here.
Yeah, I think Bitcoin energy usage is not what it used to be. That basically what's happening in the sector is that like in many sectors, energy usage is greening up. And so you'll see that miners are using smart algorithms, that they are using green energy like solar energy. In fact, a few years ago, I had a proposal to create a crypto community garden, and that would use high sensitivity solar panels to to mine or validate cryptocurrency and distribute the retained earnings back into the community to
Hmm.
finance community services. So there's circular economy type efforts going
Right.
on. And so while Bitcoin still uses a particular mechanism that uses more energy than some of the other, let's say Bitcoin adjacent cryptocurrencies like Ethereum, many of those cryptocurrencies now have moved over into a type of consensus mechanism or approach to how their systems operate that really don't have large energy
Hmm.
footprints at all compared to traditional
Right.
computing, and certainly in comparison to artificial intelligence, for example. So the green, I think, we have to attend to this, but there are many initiatives now that mean that Bitcoin mining can contribute,
Hmm.
use green energy, that the heat produced from mining is recirculated into other um,
Right.
energy usage of energy, like heating your home, for example. So it's not the issue that
Hmm.
it used to be.
All right. We are going to have to leave it there this morning. Thank you both so much for taking the time with us and walking us through that. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Victoria. And thank you, Jesse. Appreciate you being here. Victoria Lemieux leads UBC's blockchain research cluster. Jesse McKee is the head of digital strategy with 221A.